Shalom, and welcome to the channel. We're excited that you're here. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the amazing history lesson. Whether you're new or you're already part of the family, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's enjoy this journey together.
There once was a God-fearing black man by the name of Judas Maccabeus, who looked on the burdens that was rigorously placed on his brethren by the white man, the bringing of whoredom and swine into the house of God, even sending them death threats if they continue to call themselves Israelites. But what struck the emotional bone to the core was the taking of black babies from their black mothers and throwing them off 10-story buildings and mocking as they blood painted the roadways. And the war was waged on that wise.
I can't breathe. I need to get up. I'm not moving without him. I'm not moving without him. Just let me get up.
Please don't leave. Please don't leave me. Please don't go. Yeah. 'Cause I done fell off again. My bad decisions got me in a place of distraught again. Look in the mirror, I don't look the same. I got somewhere in my thoughts again. Try to dress it up, make it look pretty. Silently crying so no one can hear me. And I can't come to the phone. Just please leave me alone. Really, I'm scared. Don't wanna tell you I'm living in sin. The Most High forgave me in my sin. Don't wanna tell you I did it again. Nah, I just need to repent. I know. Get up, try it again. Righteous. Abba, please help me fight this. Whatever you do, don't take your spirit. Whatever you do, don't take your love. You can take anything from me, but I need you.
Father in heaven, I'm having a crisis. You know how heavy this life gets. Fight the flesh with a tight fist, but I'm getting tired and I might slip. Might fall, but I don't trip, cause you're in control of my soul. So if any day I'm feeling hot or cold, I know you controlling them both. To see a righteous man fall 7 times when I'm on fall number 88. I would've died in the hands of man, but it's all praise. I would give me grace. Father, free me from my worldly ways. I wanna see the 12 pearly gates. I fought the fight and I kept the faith. Christ took the charge, verse 48.
Don't take your spirit. Whatever you do, don't take your love. You can take anything.
Take anything,
from me, but I need you.
Yeah. Hallelujah. I get it, I'm weak in the flesh and I had to admit it. Had a cheat sheet for the test and I still fell short while bearing your image. Back to the trenches from chemist, you feel a lot different about sin when you in it. I can have plenty of riches like Saul, but what's life if I'm dead in the spirit? Repeating my sin like a parent, forgive me for being a burden. Repent to the great physician, don't cut me off like a surgeon. Save me from the Medes and Persians, keep my gaze from the reach of the virgin. Everyone don't have the privilege of serving, I just wanna hear well done with the verdict. Been a faithful servant.
Father, I sinned.
Yeah.
Again.
Over and over again. Have mercy on me.
Have mercy.
I'm begging you to wash me clean.
Make me know, yeah.
Living without you ain't worth it.
It ain't worth it at
When
all.
I don't feel your presence, I get
Man, I
nervous.
feel now.
Here's my heart purging, and I know that I deserve it, but whatever you do, don't take your spirit. Whatever you do, don't take your love. You can take anything from me, but I need you. Whatever you do, don't take your spirit. Whatever you do, don't take your love. You can take anything from me, but I need you. But I need you.
Yeah. Hey.
Before I ever knew you knew me.
You chose me before I ever knew my purpose. You molded me. Looking at my past indiscretions, I'm thinking I'm dirty. I'm so dirty. Broken pieces, some are missing. You're saying I'm worthy. I'm still worthy. Focus on my everyday survival. Living my life in captivity. I was not prepared for what came next. My judgment, is this life worth it? Before I ever knew you knew me, you chose me. Before I ever knew my purpose,
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kwadash, Hayah, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakwatha, Thaba'a, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'aratazar, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Lathananawa, Lacham, Kal, Yawam, Wasalachnawa, Khawbwathnawa, Kasalachnawa, Khawbwathinawa, Wala'a, Tabia Anawa, Manasaya 1, Abal, Hawashayanawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wa'athapa Arath, La'ai Walamyam, Aman. Ya Baraka, Ya Baraka, Yahweh, Yahweh, Wa Yashamaka, Wa Yashamaka, Yahweh, Yahweh, Ya Yahweh, Ya Yahweh, Hanya Wa Al Yaka, Hanya Wa Al Yaka, Wa Yachanka, Wa Yachanka, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yasha'a Yahweh, Yasha'a Yahweh, Hanya Wa Al Yaka, Hanya Wa Al Yaka, Wa Yasham, Wa Yasham, Laka Shalom, Laka Shalom, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Shah, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Shah, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yasha Allah, Yasha Allah.
Shalom, shalom, family. All praise to the Most High. The water for being here. All praise to the Most High. Yeah, thank everybody, whoever get a chance to join, watch the class. All praise to the Most High. I pray everybody's doing well. All right, today's Thursday. This class is part 2 from the class that I did last week, dealing with times and seasons and calendars and whatnot, right? So this will be part 2, and this class is entitled Knowing the Time, pursuant to the book of Romans chapter 13 verse 11. And it is funny times that we're in, brothers and sisters. It is funny times that we're in. Not funny as in ha-ha, but funny as in peculiar, right? Because for those who have eyes to see, you can see that prophecy is being fulfilled, and we're getting so much closer to our salvation. But before we get to our salvation, there's going to be more tribulation. It's going to be more woes, right? So it's good for us to watch, like Yahushua said, watch and pray, But the thing is, we can't get caught up and bogged down with certain things that they're not beneficial to us. They're not beneficial to our spirit, our edification, so on and so forth, right? We got to um stay focused on the weightier matters, right? That's what it's about. So all praise to the Most High, right? Gone. So we're gonna get straight to it. Salakia. 1 second. Share my screen. We get straight to it. Khan, all praises. All right, so speaking of that, let's get that scripture straight off the bat, right? Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 13. We read this at camp all the time, right? Start at verse 11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. Now, the Bible uses our stupor, it uses the word sleep, right? Because sleep is a state of being unconscious. You're unaware of what's going on. And that's just how we are. So when the Bible uses certain words like analogies and similes and whatnot, it's perfect because it goes right along with where we are, right? As far as in a timeline of prophecy, so on and so forth, right? So it says, and that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. Right? What's our salvation? Us being in rulership in the kingdom. We don't have to deal with the madness of what's going on right now, where we're about to pay $5 a gallon for gas, right? $30 a pound for ground beef and all type of madness, man. 1 minute the war is on, then next minute the war is over, right? All type of foolishness, man, and it's gonna get worse, right? So again, before we get to our salvation, we got to go through the tribulation, but it is getting nearer, and the Bible refers it to like a woman getting ready to give birth, right? And as anybody who ever been through that situation, the sisters, they could attest, right? The contractions get more and more painful and more frequent right before the child gets delivered. So that's what we're going through. Verse 12, the night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Exactly. How can we be? What is synonymous with the works of darkness? Well, it goes on to tell you, verse 13, and the things that we need to put off, right, is going to list, and what we should put on is the armor of light, right? Verse 13, let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting. These are works of darkness, right? You see our people, especially our children now, they running around. They have something called a team, a takeover, something like that. This is where they just flood, businesses and places where people congregate, whether it be like shopping malls, hangouts. Our people just flood them, man. It's mostly our people. Of course, you got Esau and other nations in there, but they follow us mostly. It be our youth. They're the ones who's really doing this, right? So we can't be doing that. That's a form of rioting. I'm in New York, and they had this takeover thing. I want to say maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. They took over a popular shopping area called Bay Plaza. It's a big mall, right? And these kids was in there rioting and just going crazy, man. So the Lord is telling us in these last days, this is not what we need to be doing, because Esau, he's got plans for that. Believe you me, he's got a plan for all of that. Whether he's going to use AI or he's going to track you down, or the worst thing now, from what I'm understanding, they're starting to charge the parents for the crimes of the children, right? Which is crazy, but that's the times we in, right? It says not in rioting and drunkenness. That's straightforward. We ain't got to touch on that. We're not supposed to be drinking alcohol to the point where we're drunken. We're in a state of drunkenness, falling down all over ourselves, right? And quiet is kept. A lot of people in Israel struggle with that. You know what I'm saying? And we need to face that and, cleanse our system out of that, right? Not in chambering and wantonness. That's dealing with having women all over the place, right? Excess, right? Not in strife and envying. It's a lot of that going on also, right? Romans 13, verse 14. But put ye on the Lord Hamashiach Yahushai, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. Because a lot of these things that are spoken about as the works of darkness, they go back to the flesh, right? It doesn't benefit us. So that's the context of this, right? Knowing what time we in. That's the broader or macro topic. The micro topic is finding out about the calendar and how do we know we're in the right calendar, so on and so forth. That's what the whole series is about, right? Today's class is showing that we took a lot of stuff from other cultures, right? What do I mean by that? During the time of, perfect example, during the time of the Babylonian captivity, we started to follow them and emulate our oppressors. And that could be seen even to this day. Whenever we go through some type of captivity, whenever we come through it, I should say, it's like we don't come through it clean. It's like we always bring something. We get smeared, or we always got to carry something from our previous captivity along with us, and it becomes baggage, so to speak, right? And that's what a lot of our people have done. We as a nation, we did that. We did that throughout all our captivities, whether it be, through the Greeks, whether it be through the Romans, so on and so forth. We took a piece of what they did, and albeit it's never the good things, it's always the bad things, right? And we carry it with us. So as we get into this class, we'll see that. First and foremost, I do want to say this, right? The Most High already created a spiritual calendar, right? From the beginning of time. That's first and foremost. And you can see that in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14, right? These other nations followed the Most High's blueprint. That's how they came up with their calendar. But what they did to it was they added certain things to it to honor their pagan gods and so on and so forth. So that's the groundwork we got to understand, that the Most High is the one, the sovereign power, the God of heaven and earth. He's the one that create the heavens and earth, and therefore time in itself, right? The whole concept of time. So all these other nations, they understood the concept of time. They just added their little 2 cents to it, but it was always there from the beginning, right? It's the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14, right? It says, and the Most High said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. So it's telling you right there from the beginning, before you had the Babylonian empire, before you had the Assyrian empire, before you had the Egyptian empire, before you had the Greek, the solution, all of that, the Most High already set the lights in the firmaments of heaven to divide the day from the night and to be for signs, for seasons, right? So don't get confused as to, well, we should follow this type of calendar, we should follow the Enochian calendar, or we should follow the Gregorian calendar, which we know is off as hell, right? Don't get caught up into that. What you need to understand and get a basic rudimentary knowledge of is the seasons, and pursuant to Leviticus 23, right? How the feast days coincide with the seasons. That's all you got to worry about. As far as knowing what day it is it so-called Thursday 2026? You ain't gonna find that out. In the end, the Lord is gonna bring that out, right? We think it's in 2026, but it's really not. 2026 is pursuant to the Gregorian calendar, right? And we're going to touch on that to show you that calendar is off. So we really don't know what time it is. You know what I'm saying? All we have is the seasons, just like the scripture says, right? The seasons for days and for years and for signs, right? The exact physical, accurate date, numerological date, I should say, meaning a number date, far be it from me. I couldn't tell you, right? If anybody tell you exact date what it is, hey, I would suggest you do research on that, right? So Genesis 1:14, again, we read that, right? And God said, let there be the lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. So that's the beginning of the original calendar that the Most High created, all right? From there, let's go to the book of Psalms. Let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 104. And let's pick it up at verse 19. Before I move further on, let me just make sure. Can I be heard? My volume? Is everything okay? I always do this. I know it's sometimes it gets annoying as hell. Like, yo, Zah, what you doing? I just want to know, can I be heard? You know what I'm saying? So just put a 1 in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay, Khan. I'm gonna assume I could be heard. Let me see. Boom, Khan. All right, all praises, all praises. All right, let's get back to this now. Let's get back to this. All right, all praises. So, Psalms 104, verse 19. He, which is the Most High, appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Right, as it says in Genesis, what we just read, 1 and 14, the Most High is the one who put the celestial clock, so to speak. He wind up the celestial clock, which is in the heavens, and it's been running like precision ever since, right? And the Most High is the one that controls it. Now, the topic that I wanted to touch on today is how we kind of blend, right, some of our history with some of the history of our captives. For example, the Babylonian captivity, right? When you read the Babylonian captivity, which I do believe happened around 600 BC, right? That's when we started picking up certain things from the Babylonians, and we started picking up certain practices from them. In addition, we started picking up the names of their pagan gods to add to our calendar, right? But let's get a backstory. Let's understand about how we ended up in the captivity with the Babylonians. Let's go to the book of 2 Kings, chapter 24. I'm just going to bounce around real quick. Y'all could read this on your own to get the understanding. You should know the story of the Babylonian captivity, how Southern Kingdom went off and the Lord spanked us and used Nebuchadnezzar to come lay siege on Jerusalem, took our people away into captivity, right? So let's get a quick backstory, then we'll move forward, right? So book of 2 Kings, chapter 24, I'm going to start at verse 1. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees, and the bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servant the prophets. Now you notice it's always a conglomerate of these other nations who want to join with our enemies, right? You got Moab there, you got Ammon here. It's always like that, man. They all band together when they try to come against us. Verse 3. Surely at the commandment of the Lord came this upon Judah, to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and also for the innocent blood that he shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which the Lord would not pardon. Now, the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles? So, lucky brothers and sisters, give me 1 second. Slack your brothers and sisters. God. Verse 5. I do believe I was in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 5. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did are not written in the book of the Chronicles. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So now this is when the captivity came. Joachim reigns, Salakia. So Joachim slept with his fathers, and Joachim, his son, reigned in his stead. And the king of Egypt came not again anymore out of the land, for the king of Babylon have taken from the river of Egypt and the river Euphrates all that pertained to the king of Egypt. Right. So Egypt got shook. They didn't want no problems. It was the Babylonians' time to rule, and the Lord made it such. Right. Verse 8. Joachim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months, and his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. This is the part where we really want. Deportation to Babylon. Hey, what happened back then is happening now. You have 10 tribes being deported out of America, which is spiritually Babylon. Guess what? They had deportation back then, right? This is the deportation to Babylon. 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 10. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Joachim, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants, and his princes and his officers. And the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of the reign. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold which Solomon, king of Israel, had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, all the princes and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen, smiths, none remained, save the poorest of the people of the land. And he carried away Joachim to Babylon, and the king's mother, and the king's wives, and his officers, and the mighty of the land, those carried into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. So now we're seeing that because of evil, the Lord brought this plague upon us, right? And that was the beginning of our captivity in Babylon. Now, I do believe when you look at this chart right here, right? This was prophesied when you read Jeremiah, the 25th chapter, right? But this happened around 607 BC, as you can see on this chart right here, right? It's happened around 607 BC, the Babylonian captivity, and it lasted roughly 70 years to about 538, right? That's when Cyrus, which is the Persians, they ended the Babylonian rule, right? So around this time, from 607 BC to about 538, that's when we came amongst the Babylonians and we were captives. And that's when we started picking up certain things from them, right? So I just wanted to set the backstory of how we ended up in Babylon and how we started melding or merging certain things. Priests use the word syncretism, right? Where we would add certain things together and create something new, or add it just, because it's useful, and you stray away from the original. So around this time, that's when we had problems, right? We went into captivity. So now, remember, before the Babylonian captivity, right? The Lord told us, remember, there was always months, there was always seasons. We read that already in Genesis 1 and 14. There was always months and days already, right? But remember, brothers and sisters, the Lord was the one who told us to number our months, right? He told us that in the book of Exodus, chapter 12, at verse 2. It says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. This is what the Lord told Moses and Aaron, right? Let me start at verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you, right? So the Lord told us at a certain time that that shall be the beginning of months, and that shall be your first month, right? Why did the Lord say that? Think about it. We're coming out of Egypt, right? The Egyptian calendar was crazy. They have so many days out of the year and so many months out of the year. It's not a 12-month. Matter of fact, let's look at that. Let's look that up. I didn't add that, but I think that's something we should know, right? Let's say how many months. How many months a year? Egyptian calendar. All right. So let's look at Wiki real quick. The ancient Egyptian calendar, a civil calendar, was a solar calendar with 365-day year. The year consisted of 3 seasons of 120 days each, plus a short intercalary month, right? So each season was divided into 4 months of 30 days. So the Egyptian calendar was similar to the Gregorian calendar that we have now, but it was a little bit different, right? But it didn't go along with how the Lord set it up, or the Lord wanted us to follow the seasons. And there's a reason why he did that. Because when you go back to Exodus 12, right? When the Lord told us that this month shall be unto you the beginning of months, right? That was around the time of springtime, around the barley season, right? So the Lord set it up just like that. So we start observing that as the beginning of months. When you go to the Egyptian calendar, they weren't keeping that as the new year, right? And you can see all these other calendars, they all copy from one another, whether it be the Julian calendar or the Coptic calendar, so on, and the Gregorian calendar. They all copy from one another, but they didn't have it. Whereas the beginning of the new year, right, was in around April time. Remember, even in the Gregorian calendar, when is the so-called new year? January, right? To which is traced back to the god Janus, the god of beginnings, right? When you look at the god Janus, it has a 2 face, right? Bring that up real quick. See, as you can see, this is the god of all beginnings, Janus, right? That's a Roman god. That goes back to the Gregorian, because Pope Gregory, he's a Roman Catholic pope, and he's the one that altered the calendar also. So when people say, quote unquote, Happy New Year in January, they're really following this Roman custom, which they got from the Greeks, with the god Janus. You see, God has 2 faces. It says the God of all beginnings, gates, transitions, boundaries, roads, duality, doorways, passages. You get the drift, right? So these calendars were all over the place, right? But the Lord is the one that told us to start observing the months, in the beginning of months, and the springtime, pursuant to Exodus 12, right? And also, when you look at it, let's get that scripture real quick. Let's get that scripture. Let's get the book of Deuteronomy. Slakia, let me get Deuteronomy 16. It's Deuteronomy 16. Let's pick it up, verse 19. No, Slakia, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. Slakia, bear with me 1 second. 16 and 1 is better. Observe the month of Abib and to keep the Passover. And we already know Abib means to spring forth, right? You look at it. The month of Abib, Strong's H24, Abib, fresh young barley ears, barley, right? Like we said, that's the time of the barley season, right? The month of ear forming or greening of crop or growing green, Abib. So that's when the Lord told us to observe the beginning of months, right? Now, we did do that. And in addition to that, we also, in addition to numbering the months, we also name our months. Now, a lot of people is going to say, nah, we don't name our months. That's the Babylonians. No, actually, we did name our months, but it wasn't named after pagan deities. Like, look, Deuteronomy 16 and 1, perfect. Observe the month of Abib. That's the first month, right? And Abib, which means barley, earling, right? That's what Abib means. But also, we also name our months off different things, right? Let's go to the book of First Kings. First Kings chapter 6. And let me start picking up at verse 4, right? No, let me start at 1. First Kings chapter 6, verse 1. And it came to pass in the 480th year, after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziph, Z-I-F, which is the second month. So here we have the month Ziph, which is the second month that he began to build the house of the Lord. Now, this was before the Babylonian captivity, right? This is after we came out of Egypt. And in the fourth, it says in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel. So this is the time we were, as you know, King Solomon's reign, we had nobody messing with us. It was peace throughout the land. King David has subdued all our enemies. And when Solomon took the throne, it was peace, right? So we wasn't mixing or mingling with nobody. So this is the time. And it says in the month of Ziph, which is the second month. So what does Ziph mean? Or Ziv, all right? So when you look it up, this word, which is Strong's H0299, Ziv, right? It stands for brightness, name of the second month of the year, corresponding around April or May, right? So that's not a pagan god, right? We name the months. In addition to numbering them, we would name them because Israel is an agrarian society. So dealing with agriculture, that's when we would name the months, right? Another example of this is 1 Kings 6 and 38, right? Let's get that. This is the book of 1 Kings. We're still in chapter 6, all right? We're going to scroll down. Let's pick it up at verse 38. And it says, in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, right, which is the 8th month. So the month of Bul is the 8th month. So now the first thing you would think, well, oh, is that a pagan god? Why did we name that month after that? Why did we name that month that name? But when you go into the the blue letter and you see what does Bul mean? I know B-U-L-L is bull, but B-U-L, I believe is pronounced bull, exactly, pronunciation B-O-O-L, bull, right? It says to increase or produce. The 8th Hebrew month corresponding in modern day, what we consider October to November. Now that's funny. It means increase, right? What happens around October time? For brothers and sisters who been around farms or, grew up in the South, or around that time is what you call harvest, right? That's when a lot of crops, will mature. That's when people would, the crops would come in, so on and so forth. So we wasn't naming that after any pagan god. So we were naming it based off the land and agriculture, in addition to numbering the calendar, right? So, like, you'd have the first month, second month, third month, like the Lord told us, this month shall be the first month, the beginning of months, right? We also name the months as how it corresponds to the land. So, as you see, Bul stands for increase or produce, and that would occur around the time of October, November, which will be around the time of harvest, right? So, I just wanted to bring that out to show that we also had different names, right? Here's another one. First Kings. Let's go to First Kings 8. First Kings chapter 8, Salakia. Chapter 8, and pick it up at verse 2. Right? I'm gonna read from verse 1. First Kings chapter 8, verse 1. And this is around the time of Solomon also, right? Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they may bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. Verse 2, and all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Solomon at the feast in the month Ethanim, which is the 7th month, right? So now, what does that mean? What does the word Ethanim mean? Or I know I'm probably butchering it, but you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Let's get the meaning of that word, Ethanim, which is Strong's 8388. Athanim, right? What it stands for, enduring. 7th Jewish month, or it should be Hebrew month, corresponding to modern October, November, which is before the month Bul, right? Which means plentiful. You have Ethanim, which means enduring. So we had names of the month in addition to numbers of the month, right? And that was before we went into this Babylonian captivity, as you can see, right? The 70-year captivity. Now, when we got into the Babylonian captivity, right, we started blending and mixing with them, and that's how we got different names of the months, right, that we picked up from them. And as you will see, as you continue to read in scripture, we would gravitate away from biblical names and from agrarian names, or names dealing with the land and agriculture and so on and so forth, like we just read in 1 Kings 8 and 1 Kings 6:38, so on and so forth. Now that we started dealing with the Babylonians under their captivity, take a look at this. Now look at the months that were renamed, right? In the month of March, April, we know that's Abib. The Babylonians call that Nisan, right? And you would read in different scriptures, right, where it talks about the month Nisan. So how do we go away from Abib and end up in the book in the month Nisan, right? Let's get the book of Esther, chapter 3. It's the book of Esther. Now this is the time of the Persians, right? So let's get the book of Esther, chapter 3. And let's pick it up at the verse 7. It says, in the first month, that is the month Nisan, right? In the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot before Haman, from day to day and from month to month. So we know the story of Esther. We know all of that. That was around the time of the Persian captivity, right? So how do we go from Abib and we ended up calling the first month Nisan, like a damn Nissan Altima? How we get the name Nisan? Again, as you can see, the month Nisan, this is what you're looking at is an image of the Babylonian months and how they correspond to the years, the months of the year, so to speak, right? So Nisan would have been the first month, which around the time of Passover, which is a bib for us. Then you have Ayar. Then you have Sivan, which would have been about the 3rd month. Then you have Tammuz, which is a pagan name, because you know how people, we was into worshiping fake gods and stuff like that, right? That's spoken about. How people would bake cakes and, to Tammuz. That's the Babylonian gods. Then you have Av, Elul, Tishri, Heshvan, Kislev, so on and so forth. So somewhere along the line, we started blending the Hebrew, right, to the Babylonian way of life. You understand what I'm saying? But understand, the Babylonians, even though they had different names, their calendar was somewhat in line with the season, because Nisan, which would have been the 1st month of the year, as we just read in the book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 7, right? In the 1st month, that is the month Nisan. So it blends with our calendar, right? But it's just the names that got caught up. In addition to the names, we also started following their customs. But for the topic that we're talking about, is talking about the calendar, right? What are the similarities? The similarities from the Babylonian calendar and the Hebrew calendar is that they had 12 lunar months, and they also had something which is known as the intercalary, right? Let's take a look at this. This is the Babylonian calendar right here. And as you can see, here's on this side, this is the Babylonian names of the months, right? And then they say this is the Hebrew name, but it's not. It's still the Babylonian name, right? Because we never called the 1st month Nisan, right? Then you have the Old Persian, then Elamite, so on and so forth, right? You see, most of these cultures, most of these nations, they observe the beginning of the year around the same time as us. Because the Babylonians, they call it Nisan. The Persian call it Adukhanasi. The Achaemenian Empire, they call it something different. Elam, they call it Zikli, right? And then you have the Macedonians, right, which are the forerunners to the Greeks, right? Artemisiosis, which goes back to Artemis, Xanthikos, all type of stuff, right? We was never supposed to do that. But the point I'm trying to make to you is that their calendar somewhat lines up with the calendar from what the Lord told us how to number our months pursuant to Exodus chapter 12, right? So don't get thrown off if certain calendars align. That's just how it is. In addition to that, certain calendars are off. The point of this class is to understand that you need to go in the spirit and sync the calendars with the seasons pursuant to the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, right? And we bring that out all the time. Hold on, I think that's Captain Zakaria coming in. So as you can see, Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, this one the law gave us, this one the Most High gave us our religious so-called festivals, right? I don't really like the word religious. Blue Letter Bible, a bunch of Edomites control this. I don't like the word religious, right? These are high holy days. Salaki, let me bring the captain in. You there, King? Salaki. Khan. So Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, right? We all know this. This is what we follow. These are the feasts and the holy convocations, starting at verse 4. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. And the 14th day of the 1st month at evening is the Lord's Passover. That's what you need to know, brothers and sisters. The seasons to keep the high holy days, right? Beginning with the 1st month, which is Abib, right? 14 days and even, that's the Lord's Passover, right? That's how we keep the seasons. We keep it. That's how we keep the feast days within the season. Now, Why is it kind of important that this calendar, Salakia, lines up with the Hebrew calendar, so to speak? Because we know the beginning of the year is the month of Bib, and the beginning of the year, the Babylonians have it as the same thing. That's why it's kind of important. You don't have to know exactly, like I said, what numerical numbered year you are in. All you need to know is the seasons, right? Because we read that in the book of Deuteronomy 16. What does Abib mean? Abib means barley, right? We just read that. Let's go back to that. Deuteronomy 16. It says, observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. So now you look up what the Hebrew word for Abib, what it in essence, what it means. It says fresh, young barley ears. Barley. Everybody knows what barley is. It's a crop. It's a cereal, so to speak. Not like Captain Crunch and none of that stuff. That's a cereal too, but this is the original cereal. Original cereal are certain wheat crops like barley and things of that nature, right? It says the month of ear forming, of greening of the crop or growing green Abib. So you know that it doesn't matter if it's 2025 or 2026 or 5,000 or the year 55. You don't need to know that. All you need to know is when the crops start bare and you have the barley season, that's around the beginning. That's the season for Abib. You see what I'm saying? That's all we need to know, brothers and sisters. So don't get thrown off with the dates and the, oh my God, and this, that. All you need to know is the season, because going back to Genesis 1:14, the Lord put the signs and the seasons for a certain time, right? So that's what I wanted to bring out so everybody could understand that, right? So now, I also want to bring forth this, right? The Babylonian calendar. You see the names? We already touched on that to show you that the Babylonian names, they line up with the Persian name, not so much name, but time of the year, so to speak, right? Okay. And I also want to bring this up too. We already touched on Janus, right? So let's read a little more. It says, regulating the calendar. In order to keep the Babylonian calendar aligned with the seasons, various intercalation schemes were employed. What does it mean, intercalation, right? Pretty much to intercalate means you add something. You add a month in, or Salakia, not a month, but days in. Why? To go back to keeping the season. That's the only purpose of adding days or weeks or whatever. Like in Esau having in the Gregorian calendar, they have a quote unquote leap year where February has an extra day, I believe, right? And it's 366, I believe, in the leap year. They got that from the Babylonian calendar, and we can look that up also. So let's look at intercalary, right? Let's look that up. Salakia. Intercalary. Spelled that wrong. As it pertains to the Babylonian, thought I had that up there. Okay. Let's put Babylonian calendar, right? So it says the Babylonian calendar was a lunisolar calendar. Lunisolar means it uses the movements of the moon for months and the solar for the seasons, right? So a lunisolar calendar is what we have as Israelites, because we use both the months, like the Lord told us, Genesis 1:14, where we use the months, the beginning of months, the moon, Salakia, for beginning of months, and also the sun for the amount of days in a year, or how many days in a month, right? Because you need the sun to show you, and you need the moon to let you know the beginning, right? So it says the Babylonian calendar was a lunar solar calendar used in Mesopotamia from around 2nd millennium BC until the Seleucid era. When you see Seleucid, just think Seleucian dynasty, just think the damn Greeks, right? Because Seleucid was one of Alexander's generals, as y'all should know that already, right? And it was specifically used in Babylon and from the old Babylonian period. So what I want to get down to is intercalary. I do believe I have it here. Okay, Salakia. Check the Egyptian calendar. Oh, here we go. This is the Egyptian calendar. It says the ancient Egyptian calendar, and I'm bouncing around between the Babylonian and the Egyptian calendar because they're similar but different. But the whole idea is to understand what is an intercalary month and why do we use it, right? It says the ancient Egyptian calendar, a civil calendar, was a solar calendar with 365-day year. The year consisted of 3 seasons of 120 days each, plus a short intercalary month. Intercalary month, or a paganminal days of the ancient Egyptian, Coptic, Ethiopian calendars, are a period of 5 days. I'm reading this right here. In common years and 6 days in leap years, in addition to those calendar 12 standard months, sometimes reckoned as their 13th month. They originated as a period. To measure, to ensure that heliacal rising of Syria, this is paganism, would occur during the 12th month of the Egyptian lunar calendar, but became a regular feature of the civil calendar and its descendants. Coptic and Ethiopian leap days occur in the year preceding Julian and Gregorian leap years. Now, well, why do we need to know this? The Egyptians, they was doing it to deal with the Sirius and the pagan and the stars and all that foolishness. Yes, that's what they use it for. But intercalation, which is another word for timekeeping, is used to keep the high holy days in its right season in the month of Abib. Well, what do you mean, Zaab? Well, okay, if you didn't if you didn't use intercalation, right, and you were stuck on the Gregorian calendar, right? Bouncing around, Salakia. If you were stuck on the Gregorian calendar, right, or even the Julian calendar, you would lose a day. Every year, every so often, you would lose a day, right? To the point where your Passover will be in February, in January. You understand what I'm trying to say, brothers and sisters? You have to use intercalation to keep the feast days in this proper season, not because we're following Egyptians and we doing this and doing that. No. Remember what I said in the beginning in the book of Genesis 1:14. The Most High already set the calendar in motion already. All these other nations, they studied from the Most High's creation, right? And they tried to make their own calendar, but they couldn't. So what did they do? They had to add certain things in so that they were doing it for the wrong reasons. We're doing it for the right reasons so we could keep the Lord's Passover in the right time. Well, why do we need to do it? Because we're following the what? What calendar are we following? We're following the Gregorian calendar. If you don't know, and I'm pretty sure everybody know the Gregorian calendar. That's what we're following. And if we don't follow it, again, if we don't intercalate, our Passover days are going to be off. So let's touch on the Gregorian calendar real quick. The Gregorian calendar is the calendar used in most parts of the world, including us in America. We're in captivity. This is where we are, right? It went into effect in October 1582 following the papal bull Inter Gravissimus issued by Pope Gregory the Eighth, which introduced it as a modification of replacement of the Julian calendar. The principal change was to space leap years, again, as dealing with intercalation, slightly differently to make the average calendar year 365.24 days long rather than the Julian calendar's 365.25 days, thus more closely approximating 365.2422 day tropical or solar year that is determined by the Earth's revolution around the sun. We know they off as hell. The Earth don't go around the sun. The Earth doesn't move. Earth abided forever. We know that. The reason why we use intercalation is to keep the feast days in the right season. They're using it because they're worshiping pagans, fake gods, and they pagans as hell. But you have to be able to understand why things are being done the way they are, right? For that, let me pause right there because I know somebody might be like, well, where you going with that? All right. Let's get the book of Sirach, right? Let's get the book of Sirach, chapter 5. Let's get Sirach 5, and I'm going to start at verse 15, all right? We get Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 5. We'll start at verse 15. It says, be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or a small, right? Now, the reason why I brought that scripture up is so you could get some type of understanding as to why, right, we would use intercalation for our calendar, right? Again, you have to understand about the Gregorian calendar. You got to understand about the Julian calendar, which this clown here, Julius Caesar, this devil, he put it into effect, and they took it from the Egyptian calendar, right? And we started off in the Babylonian calendar, right? So you have all these calendars floating around, and they all play a major part into how we number the days today, how we number the years, right? In captivity where we are now. But more importantly, we understand that how we know how to keep the feast days in the season. That's what it boils down to. So don't be ignorant of anything in great or small matter. Do you have to be an expert and understand the Egyptian calendar? Hell no, because we don't use that. We use the Hebrew calendar, right? Do you have to be an expert and understand the Gregorian calendar? Hell no. But you should understand it because that's what is being used in this captivity now. That's how we get the year 2026. Because of the Gregorian calendar, right? But again, brothers and sisters, you should understand this, but at the same time, don't get caught up in it, if that makes sense. Because why? We're keeping the feast days in this right seasons. That's all we're doing. We're keeping the feast days in the right seasons. So that's what it boils down to. That's hence the topic, right? Knowing the time. You have to have an understanding of what's going on, so nobody can quote unquote pull the wool over your eyes and try to, confound you with anything. All right. So let me check. All right, Khan. Zach, you got anything you want to add real quick?
Yeah, Khan, out of one. I concur with what the elder is saying. Don't get stuck on it. Just understand why it's needed and kind of just keep it moving from there. I had a brother tell me, I asked him, I said, well, what if your first month falls in February and 14 days later you're supposed to have your Passover? You gonna have it? He said, yeah. I said, doesn't the Bible say you're supposed to have it in the proper season? he gonna tell me, oh, maybe that's because it's lined up with how it is in Jerusalem. I say, yo, brother, stop winging it. But it's on you out of line.
But here's the thing, right? Deuteronomy 16:1, brothers, right? And sisters, if you're listening. In the month of Abib, it's dealing with Jerusalem. It's dealing with the season, right? In Jerusalem, because that's the time that we will read. That's the time when the Lord told us to do that. So we were in the land when we were doing it. But I'm gonna tell you something, King. April is April. I don't care where you at. Does that make sense? And we know the month April. We know that's not the name of the month. The month is Abib. We know that Abib. But for understanding's sake, it doesn't matter where you are on the planet Earth. Abib is Abib. You know what I'm saying? It might be a little bit chillier. It might be a little bit warmer. It doesn't matter, but it's still Abib, if that makes sense.
That's exactly what I told him. He said,
so it should be about barley season. So how are you having Passover? And I'm not knocking my brothers who follow certain calendars. You know what I'm saying? I'm not knocking you if that's what you subscribe to, but just understand that you got to go in the seasons. That's the whole purpose. We spoke about how when we came into the Babylonian captivity, right? We started blending the Babylonian names of their months, right? We spoke about this, how the Babylonians have different names of the months. But if you look, the Persians, the Babylonians, Elam, Achaemedes, the Achaemenian Empire, all of these people, Macedonians, the Greeks, they all had the new year beginning similar to us, going back to what the Lord told us in the book of Exodus chapter 12 verse 2. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. So I don't know what to tell certain brothers, you know what I mean? I just pray they see it eventually, you know what I mean?
Right.
But again,
that's all you can do. No, I was gonna say that's it. You just pray for brothers, Most High give them the understanding or bless them with understanding so they could see it. But that's all you can do, man. It don't mean fall out with your brother over it.
Exactly. And that's exactly what this is continuation of what we brought out, what I brought out last week. You know what I mean? Don't get caught up if a brother observe Passover a week after you, or 2 weeks after, or 2 weeks prior. It's okay. It's okay. You know what I mean? They don't have the full understanding. Hey, we don't have the full understanding too. The scriptures say we know in part, prophesy in part, right?
At least you're doing better than the Christians.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And he's trying to keep he's trying to keep it in the spirit of sincerity, albeit the day might be off with 1 or 2 days or whatever the case may be. At least your brother or sister's trying to keep it in the right spirit. And the spirit is similar to the season, like we read in Deuteronomy 16. It's a season you have to keep it in. That's all. If you're keeping it in the right season, I ain't got no problems. We ain't got no problems. But if you keeping Passover in December, I don't know what to tell you, bro. That season is off. But again, I pray that, the Most High, reach out to brothers and put the spirit of understanding on them. You know what I'm saying? So now, from there, let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 90, verse 12, right? Book of Psalms, chapter 90, pick it up, verse 12. It says, so teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Brought this out last week, and I do believe it's relevant now. We need to understand that, man is nothing but dust, right? We come from the dust, we're going to go back to the earth. All right. So while we're here, King David is saying, teach us to number our days. We know that the scripture says, I'm paraphrasing, a man's all the years of his life is 60 plus 10. A score is 20, 60 is 60 plus 10. That's 70. And if by chance you have more, it's a blessing of the Lord. So number your days and apply your hearts unto wisdom. That's what we're doing. We're trying our best so that we know that we might not know the exact date the numerical date, like I said, we're not in 2026. 2026 is pursuant to the Gregorian calendar. This is not 2026. Let's just understand that now. This is just Esau arbitrarily picking a number and saying, hey, this is January 1st, 2026, and we got to go along with it because we're in captivity. We don't know the exact date, but we know the season, right? And we brought that out in the beginning of the class, right? Romans 13 and 11. Knowing the time, it is high time we awake out of sleep. So Romans 13 and 11, right? And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. So we don't know the number of the year, but we know the season because we know that certain prophecies are being fulfilled, right? And also on a literal level, we know the season. This is the summer season. You understand? So we know about the movements of the moon, what month we're in, so on and so forth. That's all we need to know. The prophecies and the seasons. That's what's going to get us through. Don't get caught up on certain dates and this, that, the third. Don't do that, brothers and sisters. Apply Judges 5 and 11. Rehearse the righteous acts. Right? So that's what we want to do. Zach, you got anything you want to bring out? I'm gonna keep this class short.
No, I don't want. You didn't cover anything. So up here for my tardiness, I was taking care of some other stuff. But you brought it out already. I don't want.
So again, we understand that during our captivity, and as we went around from different captivity to captivity, we would always take something off, right? Like we read in Esther that around the time of Cyrus and all that, right? We were calling Abib Nisan. And to recap, how do we get from Abib to Nisan? That's us being in captivity and us following the heathens, right? In addition to that, we would pick up certain customs, right? Like baking cakes to the Queen of Heaven and all that foolishness. We got that out of captivity. But all praises to the Most High. We're coming up out of that. You know what I mean? Because in these last days, the Most High is raising us up, man. So pretty much that's what I wanted to bring out. Right. Also, I wanted to touch on this, but I think I'm gonna wait till next week. Excuse me. That Talmud thing, brothers and sisters. Man, we need to stay away from that. However, all being said, there was an original Talmud during the Babylonian times, right? But the Talmud that they have now that these small hats are reading from, that's not what it is. And it has something to do with our calendar too. So I'll touch on that for next class. Right. Let's look at what find the book of Josephus real quick. Let me bring that out before I go. I think it's the third book. We brought that out last week. I'll bring it out again.
Them small hats is wicked as I don't know what, man. They are the devil the Bible speaks of, man. That's what I'm gonna say, man. Them some demons. Them some walking around demons, man.
Gone. This is Antiquities of the Jews. All right, we brought this out last week. We're gonna bring it out again.
I think it was in book 5, chapter 5.
Yeah, this is book 3, Antiquities of the Jews. And we spoke about Josephus. He was a historian, right? He was alive at that time. So this is what you call a primary source, right? And I think it was chapter 10.
Yeah, book 3, chapter 10, I think it was. Yep,
gone. Now, when you're going through these books, brothers and sisters, don't look at the pictures, because sometimes they show you pictures of Edomites, but we know that ain't it.
Josephus was not no Edomite.
Khan. So it says, this is, I do believe we have this book on the website too, right? So Josephus was a historian. He was alive around the time of the temple, before the temple got destroyed, around 70 AD, and he wrote down a lot of history, right? It says, the law requires that out of the public experience, a lamb of the first year be killed every day, at the beginning and the ending of the day. But on the seventh day, which is called the Sabbath, they killed two. So that's dealing with sacrifices. But on the seventh month, right, which the Macedonians call Hyperbaritos. See, the Macedonians are Greeks, right? But didn't we see that over here? Where's the seventh month? Right here, right? You see it? You see that? Hyperbaritos. That's what the Macedonians call the seventh month. So the Macedonians are the Greeks, and that's what they call the seventh month. We didn't. What do we call the seventh month? Just to recap, we call that. I do believe we call that Ethanim. 1 Kings 8:2. Go back to that real quick. It's the book of 1 Kings, chapter 8, verse 2. I'm gonna start at verse 1. This is 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 1. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chiefs of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they may bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is in Zion. Verse 2. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto the king Solomon at the feast of the month Ethanim, which is the seventh month, right? And when you look, what does the word Ethanim means, right? Strong's H338, it means the month of enduring, the seventh Hebrew month, corresponding to the months October going into November, stands for enduring. So it's not a pagan name. So the seventh month, we call that Ethanim. I know I'm butchering the pronunciation, Salakia, but that's what we would call. We would, in addition to numbering our months, the Lord told us, again, I'm reiterating, right? We would also name our months based on the seasons. Like this is the seventh month, which is enduring. We also read about the eighth month, which is Bul, which is the month of harvest, right? So we would name our months in addition to number them, but we would name them off the land, you know, natural thing. We wouldn't name them. So the point I was trying to make is this: the seventh month, the Babylonians call it Tisritu. That's the seventh month. And the Macedonians or the Greeks call it Hyperberatios right here. That's what we're looking at. That's the seventh month. So now when you read it in the book of Josephus, you see it right here. But on the seventh month, which the Macedonians calls Hyperbaritos, it's the same thing we just read. So these other nations, they rename their months based off of their gods or whatever. But for us, we would name our months, we would number them, and then we would name them based off agricultural meanings, like harvest or I forgot what it was. Like Ethanim was named enduring, right? Which was the seventh month. So back to the book of Josephus, right? So when you read Josephus chapter 10, it will tell you that pretty much we kept the same seasons we kept the months in the same seasons. We might have different names, but it's in the same seasons. Look at verse 4 or paragraph 4. But on the 15th day of the same month, when the season of the year is changing for winter, the law enjoins us to pitch tabernacles, right? To preserve ourselves from the cold that time of year. That's going into when we have tabernacles. That's when the seasons start to change, right? Over in Jerusalem, their tabernacles is colder than ours, right? In that land. But it's around the same time. You see what I'm saying? So again, don't get caught up on the different calendars. Just understand that you should keep it in the right season, pursuant to what the Lord told us to do. All right. All right. So with that, I'm gonna end this class. Next week I'll pick it up again. I pray, brothers got some understanding out of this. Be the Lord well. Stop sharing. God, all praises to the Most High. So in closing, Zach, you got anything you want to bring out?
The Water Adawan, definitely a great class. I advise everybody to just go back, rewatch it again, so you can pick out the key notes, right? Write them down, kind of memorize them, or kind of study them, so you'll have them. Great class, Adawan.
Khan, Elder Karab said, "What noise is interrupting the lesson?" Salaki, I don't know if it was on my end or whatever the case may be, but class is being recorded. You could, there's a lot of static. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, you got some feedback on your side when you was talking.
That was on my end.
Yeah, kind of the one.
Salakia brothers, Salakia sisters. If it was static on my end, I really apologize for that. What I'll do is I'll do a recap when I do next week's class and touch on some of this before going forward. Damn, it must have been that bad. Shoot, sister said anyone else had a static.
It was bad, but it was only bad at that little part that you was talking about. May have been maybe 20 seconds, 25 seconds, 30 seconds tops. It wasn't that long, but it was loud. It was loud.
I don't know what that was, man. I don't know. More than
you got a wire that's like
crossed or something, right?
Or crossed. Yeah, make that little feedback sound. That's what it was.
Okay, Salakia, brothers and sisters. Hopefully the word still went out, regardless of Esau's contraptions and whatnot, man. They got all these advanced technological advances, and still, you know what I mean?
Still,
yeah. All praise to the Most High. All right. With that being said, I'm gonna end the class. Most High bless you, brothers. Tomorrow, our good brothers from Detroit, I'll have the Sabbath class, and then Priest will be back, and then we'll do it again next week if it be the Lord will. So with that, I say shalom.
Shalom.
Right now, somebody is hating on you, and you and me is what we gonna tell them. I'm in a whole different stratosphere. Vision is sharp and my path is clear. On my purpose, plus I'm eloquent. Your opinion of me is irrelevant. I'm in a whole different stratosphere. Vision is sharp and the path is clear. On my purpose, plus I'm eloquent. Your opinion of me is irrelevant. Doesn't matter what they say about me, cause I know God don't play about me. Rumors don't matter if they aren't true. The reason they mad is cause they aren't you. They aren't blessed, they aren't highly favored. They're just jealous that somebody made it. Words may hurt, but it didn't kill. And you can't break what you didn't build. Use these words as an affirmation. Don't let them distract you from your aspiration. Let the hatred feed your inner beast, but always keep God as your centerpiece. What that mean? You gotta be in B with it. Always. Don't stand for nothing, then you need to sit and watch the real soldiers take a risk. If you relate to this, then homie, make a fist. I'm in a whole different stratosphere. Vision is sharp and my path is clear. On my purpose, plus I'm eloquent. Your opinion of me is irrelevant. I'm in a whole different stratosphere. Vision is sharp and the path is clear. On my purpose, plus I'm eloquent. Your opinion of me is irrelevant. If the keyboard is crazy and the drum pad is kicking, you can pass me the mic. I'm about to start spitting. Will they love me, feel me, relate to me, lyrically, hate me, despise me, corrupt inside spiritually? It's the times that we're living in. No selling my soul, there's no giving in. I ain't waiting on a Judas purse. Trained till the arms are bulging through the shirts. Get the picture, that's what cameras do. Protect what I own, I got hammers too. Prefer peace and I'm praying on it. Club shame, let Damon weigh in on it. Use these words as an affirmation. Don't let them distract you from your aspiration. Knowledge and wisdom helps you free yourself, and success will find you, so be yourself. in a whole different stratosphere. Vision is sharp and my path is clear. On my purpose, plus I'm eloquent. Your opinion of me is irrelevant.